press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
This week, leaders from around the Commonwealth will gather in London for their biennial get-together. The UK is still the biggest economy, but only just. India is catching up and very fast. The country is a complex mix of huge potential and significant challenges, but it's growing rapidly and it's increasingly economically important. Well, joining me now are Rakesh Bharti Mittal, he's Vice Chairman of Bharti Enterprises, and Chandrajit Banerjee, the Director General of the Confederation of Indian Industry. And in our central London studio, we're also joined by David Landsman. He's chair of the UK India Business Forum. So good evening to you all, gentlemen. Rakesh, let me start with you. Investment in India picking up very, very strongly recently. Why is that?
Well, I would say that the economy is starting to move forward. In the last, I would say, 6 to 12 months on the back of 2 or 3 good monsoons. The agriculture sector is performing well. Rural demand is coming back. And my belief is that in the next 6 to 12 months, we will see more consumer demand moving up the value chain. And that will result into Indian corporates investing back into businesses. Some of the key sectors are firing very well. The auto majors, FMCG, tractor and agri equipment and implements, steel and cement on the back of infrastructure investments by the government. These are the areas which are doing very well.
And you also have a very, very pro-business Prime Minister, of course.
Absolutely. And I think more importantly, the other good thing which the Prime Minister has done is taken many areas into mission mode. Make in India, Digital India, Stand Up India, Startup India. And that is where CII is partnering with the Government of India to ensure that these new initiatives are not only taken forward by either the government or the entrepreneurs, but how can we bring all the stakeholders around the table? And more importantly, hand-holding the startup-preneurs and the SMEs. I think that's one big challenge which remains within India. Clearly, to my mind, new policy initiatives have been announced for the MSME sector, even sort of grouping them into the total revenue in a year rather than capital investments, which was the case earlier. And the tax incentives, I mean, bringing down 25% for 99% of the industries. I think these are huge positive steps taken by the government.
Now, of course, the UK is the 3rd largest overseas investor in India. What do British companies get right and wrong when they invest in the country?
So I think they get more right than wrong. But what you need to see India is as 29 mini Indias. It's just not one size fit all for different states. The states are a very powerful stories today, and it'll be much more in the years to come. So one of the most important things that UK companies need to know and do is to really identify themselves as an Indian company in India rather than UK company in India. And I think that's many of your companies have done that. Some of the largest companies of Britain are actually having much larger businesses in India. And they have done that because they have been able to identify with India in ways more than one. Second, I think what they also need to understand is that it's not just an issue like if I'm an UK company into India. It's not something peculiar to UK. It's if there is a difficulty for an UK company, you should and they should understand that the same difficulties are also there for Indian companies. Sometimes, in fact, it might be much more skewed towards an Indian company than a foreign company. So actually, therefore, it's more important for them to really work together with the Indian companies as well as with the Indian dispensation to understand how they can perform much better in India.
Well, David Landsman, let me bring you in at this point. I mean, Chandrajit's just pointed out one of the things that British companies have to do. They have to portray themselves as more Indian, and yet this is a criticism that's often made of India. It's quite protective of its domestic industries. It erects tariffs. There's a lot of opaque regulation at times. Is that unfair, that characterisation?
Well, I represent the Confederation of Indian Industry in the UK, so our main focus is on Indian investment in the UK. But looking at it from the other perspective, which of course we do too. As Mr. Banerjee says, India is a very large place. If you were talking about investment into Europe, you'd have to focus very much on the particular countries you wanted to invest in or you wanted to sell to. What do they want? What's the structure of the market, and so on. And so one has to do the same thing when one looks at a huge market like India. I think the issue is it's a little bit new and different from many companies. And what you have to do is you have to think in terms of an export budget. So if you're a small company, do you have the time as the owner or as a senior manager and the resources to go to visit several times, to find partners, to understand the part of the country and the part of the market you want to work in? And if you can do that, there's no reason why you shouldn't succeed. But I think if you were to go once on a trade mission and hope that you can then come home, exchange a few emails and do a successful deal, then I think you'd have a problem. But I think there's no reason why a business that puts in the effort into India shouldn't be successful. And we've seen plenty of examples of that.
Now, of course, we're here for the Commonwealth Business Forum. How much of an impetus can the Commonwealth be for growth, do you feel?
Well, I believe there are huge opportunities within the intra-Commonwealth trade, which is currently at about $560 billion. And the review report, January 2018, which Commonwealth has brought out, we're talking of anywhere in the range of $1 trillion by the year 2020. So clearly, I mean, doubling the trade itself is a huge business opportunity and potential for India, UK, and the other member nations. But I think more importantly, let me just also pick up what you talked about India, the ease of doing business. India having jumped 30 ranks in 1 year on the World Bank rankings. I think that itself clearly shows the intent of the government to ensure that it's not only the Indian businesses but also foreign investors are welcome to the country. And if I see, we have the most friendly FDI regime in the world today. I mean, any sector you pick up, we have opened our doors. So clearly, as Prime Minister Modi says, we roll out the red carpet. And I think that is something which I believe the British business need to start looking at. I mean, 18 billion of bilateral trade between India and UK is very, very low.
Is that the feeling? Is that a feeling in India, a sense that the UK hasn't taken the Commonwealth as seriously as countries like India itself has done over the years?
No, actually, what we feel is that the Commonwealth itself has a huge potential within itself. We say, for instance, India does 20% of its trade within the Commonwealth, which is a big, and that can be enhanced. But what we are really looking at, Commonwealth to really take advantage of each other into various areas. And India has leadership positions. UK has leadership positions, and I think we need to share that, be it in the field of education, be it in the field of, say, for instance, skill development for tomorrow, be it in the field where we are all talking about is climate and energy. And I think these are areas where, if you really look at the differences within the Commonwealth countries, but the diverse nature of the Commonwealth countries, yet the possibility of immense collaboration. And I think UK and India are in a unique position to take that leadership position to make Commonwealth really, really meaningful in terms of both trade, investment, and sharing best practices and taking leadership.
That's a very positive, upbeat note on which to end. Chandrajit Banerjee, Rakesh Bharti Mittal, David Landsman in central London. Thanks all for joining me.